Hey guys, it's Rosa here. I hope you're all having a really lovely day. I'm here today to talk to you about one of my favourite fabrics of the winter and hopefully for many winters to come, and that is stretch velvet. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but stretch velvet is popping up all over the high street. I've seen it in jumpsuits, tops, skirts, dresses, everything. And I've actually made 2 stretch velvet pieces recently, which I'm in love with. I made them in the run up to Christmas, for that kind of Christmas, New Year's party type season. But I've actually worn both of them since then as well. So I wanted to share them with you. And so I thought in this video what I'd do is break it into 3 parts. The first part I'm going to be showing you the 2 garments which I've made with stretch velvet, talking you through the process, any things that I found particularly difficult and kind of how I overcame them. After that I'm going to go through my top tips for sewing with stretch velvet. And then finally, I've got some pattern picks for you guys, some patterns which I thought would look amazing in stretch velvet and would work really well with it. And also I've got a fabric that I'd like to share with you to see what your input is and yeah, get your guys' ideas on what I could make with it. Before I begin, let me very quickly show you what I'm wearing. I'm wearing my trusty Seamwork Astoria jumper. I am in love with this pattern. I find it so super flattering. I made it in this really fun stretch winter knit jersey from Fabricland, and I'm wearing it with my New Look Patterns button down mini skirt. Actually underneath I've got my little cat Agnes top, but no one's got to see that today, which is a shame. It's been hiding underneath my Astoria, but anyway, never mind. So the first thing I'm going to share with you today are my 2 garments which I've made with stretch velvet. The first is this beautiful jumpsuit. I'm obsessed with this colour for a start. I mean, isn't that a beautiful colour? It's like this gorgeous emerald green. It's actually showing up really nicely on the camera. So I made this jumpsuit. It's a Simplicity pattern. It's Simplicity 8333. Oh, there it is. And it's a pattern which is easy to sew and also just for knits. So this pattern you can't use a woven fabric for because it won't fit, of course, and it's marked as easy to sew, and I would really agree. And this is definitely a perfect pattern if you are sewing with stretch velvet. It's just so easy. I would highly recommend if you're working with stretch velvet for the first time. It's not the easiest fabric to sew with. It's not impossible either, but it's a little bit fiddly. It likes to wiggle around a bit, slip around, you know. So a pattern like this, which has so few pattern pieces, is just absolutely ideal. So if you look here, the sleeve is a kimono sleeve, so you don't have to insert any sleeves at all, so that's fantastic. It's just 3 main pattern pieces. So you've got the bodice front, of course you cut 2. You've got the bodice back, and then you've just got the, sorry, it's got 4 main pattern pieces because then it's got the leg front and the leg back. So bodice front, bodice back, leg front, leg back, and then it's all joined together in the middle. And there's the center waist seam, and of course it's got elastic running through there, so that's why it's all gathering up, which gives it this kind of lovely Grecian look, I think, somehow. Yeah, which I think looks kind of cool the way it gathers in towards the waist. I wore this for 2 parties over Christmas. I wore it for the new Craft House Christmas party, which was so much fun. It was so nice to see everybody there. And actually we had quite a long walk from the station to get there, me and Dominique, but I stayed really warm and cozy because this fabric is so warm. So I would highly recommend stretch velvet, or any kind of velvet actually, if you're trying to stay cozy this winter. This was literally head to toe velvet. It's got, I'll insert pictures of me wearing these things so you can actually get a better idea of it, but it's got a full length leg which is flared. I feel like I should be in like an ABBA music video. I'm obsessed with this. I absolutely love the way this looks. I think it's, yeah, really cool and groovy. I love the way it's got the wrap at the front and it's got the flared leg. If you were worried about it slipping open at the front, you could always either put a little safety pin in there or perhaps just wear like a little camisole underneath. Yes, if that's something that you were worried about. But yeah, it actually stayed together really fine on me at the front. You'll notice that the neckline is finished with a bias binding, which you just sew on and then, yeah, turn under and press. I can see that this edge is turning under a bit around the back of the neck, which annoys me a bit. I might hand stitch that down. But anyway, yeah, if I could get away with wearing this to work, I would. But I think it might just be a little bit too much. But yeah, that's just how much I love this piece. And actually, oh, the pattern's fallen down. But I've made another version of this. So if you look at the pattern, and I think this would also work well in stretch velvet, it's got a, ooh, can you see? A halter version. And I made that in plain black jersey for my trip to Copenhagen in the spring, and yeah, I absolutely loved it. It's just a really cool pattern, and it really is easy to sew, and it's because it's so simple and so few pattern pieces, it really lets the velvet do the talking. Which sounds a bit silly, isn't it? But I think it's really true. Like a beautiful velvet in a gorgeous rich colour like this gorgeous green, it really will do the talking for you. You do not need a pattern which is like lots of different pattern pieces and lots of fancy seam work, because the fabric is beautiful and it will look gorgeous in a really, really simple shape. So that's my first garment which I made. My second is my dress for the Little Red Dress project. Again, I'll insert some pictures, but here is the dress on the hanger. This came together again really, really simply and quickly. It's a little bit more complex than the jumpsuit. The jumpsuit again only had those 4 main pattern pieces. This one here has quite a few more than that. It had the bodice front, bodice back, and the sleeves, so that's 3. Then it had skirt back, skirt front, and skirt back, so that makes 5. Get my maths right. And then it had a neckband, which makes 6, and then it had the waist ties, which makes 7. So it's still really not that many pattern pieces for a dress, which I think looks quite fancy, and I really enjoyed. I wore this on Christmas Day, so I felt very special, and I actually do think I could layer this up for work over a polo neck and tights or something like that, and it would work really quite well. So it's slightly more versatile, I would say, this piece, because it's less of like a wow kind of shape. And I'll show you the pattern which I used. It's a new look pattern. I actually got this super cheap in the sale, and again, this is a pattern which is just for knits. I can't stress enough how important I think it is, if you've not made a pattern with stretch velvet before, that you go for something which is a pattern that is just for knits, because you don't want to be doing darts and things on a stretch velvet when it's like slipping around everywhere. And yeah, a pattern that's just for knits will most likely have fewer pattern pieces as well, which is always handy. So this yeah, is New Look 6301. Yeah, the picture isn't overly inspiring, but it actually turned out really nicely. It fit just perfect straight out of the pack. But I can say that for both of them, I made my usual size in both of these patterns, which was a UK size 10. They both came out absolutely fine, no adjustments needed at all. This one I went for view A, which is the one here with the 3/4 length sleeve and the flared skirt, but it's also got a straight skirt option, a sleeveless option, and a little cap sleeve option. And you can also leave off that waist tie, which I did. I did the waist tie. And the reason I think it's good to do the waist tie is there is elastic in the waist, which makes it gather slightly. And that's actually the only thing I really don't love about this pattern. I just felt it was really not essential. I didn't really know why they put it in there. It's slightly too loose around the waist, so it gets pulled in by this elastic, and you can see it sort of gathering in there at the waist, and then the tie covers it up so you don't see it. But I did kind of feel, because it's a stretch dress, if it were up to me, I would have just cut it slightly smaller, and then it wouldn't have needed the elastic in the waist. But anyway. See, it kind of surprised me. I got halfway through making it and I hadn't read the instructions, and it was like, insert the elastic, and I was like, what? Why is there elastic in this? So yeah, that was the only thing that I really didn't like about the pattern, but overall I was really happy with the fit and the way it looked, and yeah, it felt really special at Christmas time. Both of these stretch velvets which I used are from one of the shops on the Gold Hawk Road. I don't remember the exact name of the shop, but I will find out and link it down below, because they had quite a nice selection. They had like 5 or 6 different colours, and they're all really, really high quality. So yeah, I was very pleased with them. I think they look really good. So those are my 2 pieces which I've made with stretch velvet, and I've learnt quite a bit from making them, and I kind of learnt through trial and error quite a bit as well. So I've written down a few of my top tips in my notebook. I thought I'd share them with you if you are thinking of making something from this very on-trend fabric that is popping up all over the place. So my first top tip is pins. Now, something that you will find with velvet, this is stretch velvet or woven velvet, is that when you pin it right sides together, so you've got the fluffy sides facing, it does something called creeping, and that literally means like moving very slowly out of where it should be. So my first top tip, number 1, is to use masses of pins. I used so many pins. I didn't run over them on the sewing machine. I was very good and did take them out. But yeah, I used a hell of a lot of pins just to hold it all together, make sure everything's in the right place. Because yeah, particularly on this neckband, I would say that was a real fiddle getting this neckband on there. Something I actually did end up doing was zigzagging the neckband in half before I applied it, just because I was trying to do it without having secured it in half. Usually like with a jersey top I wouldn't do that, but because it was creeping and moving so much, I was like, right, it's kind of like tacking it in place, almost zigzagged all the way along the neckband. So I folded it in half and zigzagged it so it was ready before I started having to then stretch it onto the rest of the neckline. And also what I would say, if your fabric is really moving, I would recommend tacking it. So what I would do is use a thread in a really contrasting colour. So if I was going to be using a red fabric or a green, like these lovely dark rich jewel tones, I would choose like a really bright orange, something that's completely different, and I would just do like a large running stitch all the way along, which doesn't take too long, and it's worth it in the long run if it means you're not having to like unpick all of your stretch stitching or overlocking, whichever you choose to do on your stretch fabric, which as we all know takes ages to unpick. So yeah, I would say masses of pins or tacking if it's really you know, going all over the place, to avoid that creeping and make sure all your seams are really crisp and as perfect as they can be. The second thing to bear in mind when you're working with stretch velvet is the nap. So if I hold up my green here, I should be able to show you. So the nap of velvet fabric is, it just basically means which direction the pile is going in. So which way you cut it is completely up to you. In the sort of traditional way to do it is with the pile facing downwards. So when you stroke down the garment, it feels really smooth, and when you stroke the other way, it feels really rough. But on this one, I've actually done the opposite. So the reason for that, if you cut it so that when you stroke upwards, it feels smooth, and downwards it feels rough, so the pile is facing upwards, like my jumpsuit here, I find that it just gives like a really rich, beautiful colour. Whereas if you do it the other way around, it gives, if you look, more of a shine. So it really just depends on which way, what you want from your velvet, really. If you want more of like a rich, richer, deeper looking colour, I would recommend doing it this way around, so the pile is going upwards. But if you would like it to have that beautiful, shimmery, shiny look, which velvet can have, so you can see here it's a bit more shimmery and shiny, I would recommend having the pile going downwards. So just have some fun with it, stroke it, see which way you like the look of it, really. Maybe look in the mirror, hold it up to yourself. That's what I do sometimes with fabric, so I'm not sure if I can wear them right next to my face. If it's like a really crazy print, I might like stand in the mirror and look with it up here and then be like, maybe it should be down here, maybe it should be like a skirt or whatever. But yeah, do the same with your pile, see like which way you think looks best. And obviously different colour velvets will look better each different way as well. And some might look better with the pile up, and some might look better with the pile down. The one thing I would say to consider is, of course, it's completely up to you and how you want your garment to look, but do make sure that all of your pattern pieces are cut in the same direction. So if I cut my trouser front and my trouser back, one with the pile going up and one with the pile going down, it would look really weird on the seam line. It would look like it was two different colours, because it does really change the colour which way round the pile is going. So one way would look darker and one lighter. And of course that you don't really want it to look like that. It might look a bit weird. So yeah, that's just something to consider when you're cutting out. And something I would say as well, when you're cutting out with any stretch fabric, pattern weights are really helpful. If you have like a rotary cutter and a mat, I actually don't, just for that looks kind of weird there. I actually don't have a rotary cutter and cutting board, just simply because we just have such a small flat. There just isn't space, so I don't have those things. But when we do get a bigger place, that's something I would absolutely love, is to have like a table where I can cut things out. I think that would be, it would be amazing. That's like my total dream. But yeah, that would be, I think, a really good idea, because again, the fabric creeps and moves around when you're trying to cut it. So top tip number 3 is to use a stretch needle. I always buy branded needles for my sewing machine. I have a Singer, but I know that Jana may do branded needles. I know that lots of the big sewing machine companies do. Of course, it doesn't have to be branded, but I just find that my machine works better if I use a Singer brand needle. And they do sell them for stretch fabric, so they're like a ballpoint usually on the end. It just means that you get a much more consistent stitch. And I used to not believe in it and be like, oh, they're all the same. I just used to use my standard needle for everything. And then as soon as I actually used a stretch needle, I was like, oh, that's why they say you need to, because like you don't get like the skipped stitches, and it just makes it lie so much nicer, have much more even tension as well. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that. And obviously getting that matching thread as well. Something else to be super careful about when you're working with a stretch velvet fabric is ironing. So because stretch velvet is made out of polyester, it melts incredibly easily. So actually I would say with my jumpsuit, I kind of cheated and just didn't iron it. And I know you're not supposed to do that, but actually it's turned out absolutely fine. The good thing with a fabric like a stretch velvet, which is so high in polyester content, is it doesn't really get creased. So I can wear it and wear it, sit down, stand up, do whatever I want. And the fabric, yeah, it just doesn't really seem to crease. So it won't need ironing, I don't think, you know, after washing and things like that. But I would say, obviously, things like hems, you do want to finish them nicely, and make sure your seams are pressed nicely during the making. So what I would say is to always press it on the reverse. So don't press it on the fluffy side, because you risk melting it and leaving like lines in the pile, which obviously you don't want to do. And also what I would say is to use a really low temperature iron, and also it'd be really good to use a pressing cloth. Now if you don't have a pressing cloth, I actually just use a tea towel, or like you can just use any sort of thin gauzy fabric which you have, like a cotton lawn lying around, and put that in between the fabric and the iron. But I would still say use a low temperature just in case, because it would be so annoying if you'd made like your garment or had nearly finished making it and then all of a sudden you melted a hole in it. Yeah, that would be super annoying, wouldn't it? So yeah, I would use a really low temperature and also use that pressing cloth. And I think between the two, you should be able to to press your garment yeah, fairly safely. So yeah, I think that's a really important thing to mention, because yeah, that would be just heartbreaking, wouldn't it, if you'd worked super hard on something. And yeah, my last tip for working with stretch velvet is something which I spoke about earlier, so I won't dwell on this for too long, but it's to choose a pattern that has as few pattern pieces as possible. Let the fabric do all the talking, because it will look amazing whatever you choose. And yeah, maybe make sure you pick a pattern which is especially for knits. So make sure you just check out the back, see if it's designed for knits, and if it's not, maybe save it for once you've made something else in stretch velvet, because I think, yeah, for your first one it would really be helpful if you choose like a really simple jersey knit pattern, and yeah, it will definitely come together a little bit more easily for you. And I find that if I'm trying something new, I want the first time round to be as stress-free as possible. Otherwise, you know, I might get frustrated or like just not want to look at it. I want to leave it for like 6 months. Do you know what I'm sure some of you know what I mean? So yeah, I think for your first run, you want to choose something which is an achievable goal, I think is a fair way to put it. So those are my top tips for working with stretch velvet fabrics. I do hope they were useful, guys. They're just some things which I picked up along the way as I made my jumpsuit and I made my dress. And yeah, I really love both those pieces. So for the last part of the video, I'm going to share with you some of my top pattern picks for working with stretch velvet. I got so excited when I was picking these out, because I was just thinking how amazing these things would look in stretch velvet, and now I want to make them all. I'm not going to, obviously, but I do have a fabric at the end I'm going to need your help with, because it's another beautiful stretch velvet. But yeah, I've just found all these lovely patterns in my stash, and all of them I'm like, well, that would look amazing in stretch velvet, and so would that, and so would that. So yeah, let me know what you think. I thought this would look really cool. This is Simplicity 8424. It's one of their newer patterns. It's from their dance collection. I thought that little wraparound cardigan, a wraparound velvet cardigan would be adorable in like a beautiful dusty rose pink. I thought that could be absolutely stunning. My next pick is New Look 6493. This is the jumpsuit which I made in the summer. I made it in, woo, there we go. I made it in gingham in the summer, but it's not designed for stretch knits, but it's princess seamed, so I think it would work really well in the jersey. It's not got darts. And I just thought that in black velvet or navy velvet would look super cool. Yeah, I'm loving that idea. I also love the idea of making a velvet blazer. My favourite blogger, Liv Purvis, has a black velvet blazer, and it's all like slouchy and cool with jeans, and I was like, oh, such a cool look. So yeah, this I thought would look super cool. It's a Burda 6703, and it's a blazer pattern, but it's designed specifically for stretch knits, so it's quite a simple blazer. They've rated it as easy, but I don't always take Burda's word for it when they say something is easy, because I feel like they get rated by somebody who's really super skilled. So yeah, I'm not sure it looks like the easiest of patterns, but I do think it's an achievable goal. So yeah, absolutely loving that one, and I would think that would look amazing in velvet. I also have the Republique de Chiffon Renee dress. This has a frill around the front yoke, and I just thought, oh, wouldn't that frill just look absolutely beautiful in a gorgeous velvet? Yeah, that would look absolutely beautiful. I'm loving that one there. I also have the Tilly and the Buttons Martha dress in my stash, which is definitely on my to sew list for this year, for 2018. And yeah, I thought the Martha dress in velvet would look absolutely stunning as well. It could be the short sleeve or the long sleeve version. That would just be absolutely adorable for spring This again isn't for stretch knits, but again it has the princess seams. So what I would probably choose to do is just go down by half a size maybe, or just maybe do a slightly larger seam allowance just to make sure it's nice and fitted. Yeah, to make sure. But I know that Emily from Self Assembly Sewing made the Martha dress in a ponte, which has a similar amount of stretch to a stretch velvet, and it looked amazing on her. So yeah, this is definitely, I've seen made in stretch fabrics and looked absolutely stunning. This one I've shown you, that's the one that I made, and this is the one that I've made. So my last two are, I thought a simple slip dress would be absolutely gorgeous in velvet. Probably not this exact pattern, but I just brought it in for reference because I know you can get slip dress patterns which are designed for stretch knits, so they omit the darts. However, this is an incredibly simple pattern, so you could, of course, put the darts on it. It's New Look 6499, a really, really simple slip dress, but I think any slip dress pattern would look really sweet and be super simple in beautiful velvet. And my last one is this one here. It's New Look are changing up the way they do their designs. They've got like these illustrations now. What do you think? I kind of like it. I think it's quite cute, but love this pattern. New Look 6469. I thought the version with the polo neck would look amazing in velvet. Can you imagine that? It's like really swingy around the bottom. That would look really cool. So shall I show you my fabric which I've got? It's actually black. It's a black stretch velvet. So this is from my stash. I think I've got just under 2 meters looking at this. I fold it up so it's all protected so it doesn't get too fluffy. But yeah, there's not much to see here. It's black velvet, but I do think it's stunning. It's a really, really nice quality. I wish I could remember where I got it from. Let's be honest, it's highly likely from Fabricland or somewhere like that. But yeah, it's a beautiful black stretch velvet, and I'm so excited to get going with it and make something beautiful for this kind of slightly miserable time of year here in the UK. January is very cold and damp, and then we had sleet at the weekend, we had a bit of snow. It's just raining, yeah, all the time, and I'm trying to keep warm and wear nice things basically. So I was thinking maybe, yeah, that blazer, the Birder blazer, could work really, really well in this black stretch. I thought that could look really cool. So I'm kind of torn between doing this or doing a skinny strap jumpsuit. I think both could work really, really well. So do let me know what you think down below, or if you can think of something else which would be really amazing in a beautiful black stretch velvet, because yeah, I'm really excited to get going. Both of these wouldn't be the easiest in the world, but I think that yeah, they'd be achievable with the fabric, not too many pattern pieces and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm excited. I think it'll be really, really good fun. Ooh, they're all falling off. I have way too many things on my sofa now. You might spot I'm filming somewhere a bit different today. These pictures look wonky. They're not. It's just because of like the angle of the camera compared to the angle of like the sofa and the wall. Yeah, they're just not wonky, so I'm really sorry. They do look really wonky. It's really annoying to me just looking behind me and looking at them. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope this video was helpful. I hope you picked up a couple of good tips. And I hope that inspired you to give this amazing fabric a try. I absolutely love it. And yeah, I really can't recommend it highly enough. Yes, it's challenging, but it's really, really rewarding because yeah, I just think it looks so beautiful when it's finished, and it's super cozy. I feel like stretch velvet is like a luxury that you can just wear every day, which sounds really cheesy, but I do think that's true because it's machine washable. You know, it's not like wearing silk velvet, which is like only for special occasions. You can wear it every day, chuck it in the wash. It's warm, it's cozy, it looks beautiful, it looks glamorous. Yeah. 2 thumbs up from me for stretch velvet. Anyway, that's everything for today, guys. Really hope you enjoyed this video. Please do give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and yeah, do click subscribe for new sewing vlogs every week or so, and yeah, I will see you again very soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.